Good morning, Gonzaga families. This is Amy Swank, and I'm the Director of Parent-Family Relations. I'm thrilled to be introducing this next and our last live panel for the day. We have just been thrilled to be able to offer you our virtual orientation experience over the last couple of weeks. We know there'll be some post-orientation sessions for you all to take part in on our website. And for those of you that are joining us on campus, we'll see you in a couple of days. And for those of you that are going to continue to join us virtually, don't worry, we have so much planned for you. I have the honor of working with all of these amazing students, which you see on our panel today. They either serve in a couple of different roles in our office. They serve on our core leadership team, who oversees our family ambassadors and all of our student leaders. And then the rest of our students are on our ambassador team. And they all have a very unique story to be able to share with you. We have a diverse set of students that can share their unique experience at Gonzaga. So I'm hopeful that they'll be able to answer all of your questions. This is how this is going to work. They're going to start introducing themselves as soon as I'm done. If you have questions, let's start putting them into the chat. And then our admin team will start to share those once the students are done introducing themselves. Thanks again, and go Zags.
Well, I'll start us off. I'm Brandon Coate. I am part of the Family Core team. I am the Special Projects Coordinator. I'm a public relations major with minors in general business and digital marketing. I'm a junior and I'm from Spokane, Washington. And I also identify within the LGBTQ community.
Hi, my name is Ryan Hayes. I am a dance major with a performance concentration, and I'm minoring in music as well as interdisciplinary arts. I'm from Spokane Valley, Washington, and I'm a current junior.
Hi, I'm Serena Hua. I am a junior nursing major from Kirkland, Washington. I am also a first-generation student, and I serve as the Family Engagement Coordinator on Family Core.
Hello, everyone. My name is Samantha Lumbo. I am the Student Leader Coordinator on our Family Core team. I am a senior psychology major, sociology minor from Anaheim Hills, California, and I'm also a first-generation student.
Hi, everyone. I'm Anna Sanford from St. Regis, Montana. I am the Office Coordinator for Parent and Family Relations, and I'm an accounting major and comm studies minor.
Hi, I'm Taylor Chin. I'm a senior nursing major from Waipahu, Hawaii, and I'm currently attending school on campus this year.
Hello, my name is Jordan Cruz. I am an environmental studies major, economics and Spanish minors. I am from Pueblo, Colorado, and I am a sophomore, so I just went through everything that you all are going through just a short time ago.
Hi everyone, my name is Kevin. I am a senior sociology major with sustainable business, Spanish, and economics minors, and I'm from Los Gatos, California.
Hi everyone, I'm Megan Graney, and I'm a sophomore from Sisters, Oregon. I'm majoring in history, and I'm also getting a secondary teaching certificate.
Hi there, my name is Issa Singh, and I'm a senior studying civil engineering with a general business minor and in the honors program here at Gonzaga. I'm from Federal Way, Washington, and I'll be doing a full remote semester here.
Okie dokie, I believe that was everyone. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we're gonna go ahead and get started with the Q&A. The first one that we have in here is, what advice would you give to virtual students to stay connected to the on-campus experience? Now, I know all of us had to go online in the spring semester for part of that semester. So if anybody has any advice for parents on how they can support their students during that time.
Yeah, so I can kick this one off. I think the biggest thing for me was really following the emails of events and how it shifted from on-campus stuff to a lot of virtual programming. And so paying attention to those. I know it's very easy when you're sitting in the dorms to kind of go, I have my own social groups, but you really crave that once you're at home and you don't know what you want to do with that free time to really connect with the fellow Zags. And so watching those morning emails, getting connected through that, kind of keeping at what Spike Nights is doing, just getting out there and trying it. You don't have to love everything they program out, but trying it, seeing if you like it, you know, shift, pivot, those sorts of things.
I can also add on to that. On campus, I am an executive board member for 2 clubs, A Moment of Magic and Zagathon. So from that end, I will say that they're working very hard to create a virtual experience as well for their students. So like Issa said, keep an eye out on morning mail because a lot of news goes out that way. So yeah, there will definitely be ways that your students will be able to connect.
Issa, this is Amy. Would you mind sharing what Zag nights are, or Zag Spike nights?
Yes, I will. I did a lot of these events as a freshman and a sophomore. And so this is special programming for students that typically happens, I'd say Friday and then the weekend. And it's just a whole, just anything you could think of. We had like a mug decorating night. I have my mug sitting right here. We did an escape room. We did pumpkin carving, anything, right? So it's just like those fun little activities that you like sit down with your family at home and do. Spike Night sets it up, and you can go with your roommates, you can go with buddies from class, and it's lots of fun. When we were in person, it was in Hemington, and you most of the time you go down. You sometimes you had to sign up, sometimes you didn't, and just kind of hang out. I do know that with they're pivoting to the online version, it's a little more Zoom oriented to keep people distanced, but that same energy is still there. I can tell you that.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and move on to the next question. Again, this is just to all of our panelists. What is one thing each of you wished you had known at the start of your college experience? I can go ahead and start. I probably wish I had known how easy it was to get involved, because I was sort of like a little on the fence about getting involved in certain groups, and I was just like trying to make friends like in my classes, but definitely getting involved early on would probably be my piece of advice.
I mean, I'll go next. I wish I had more of an understanding that everyone's kind of in the same boat as you, and what I mean by that is like everyone's trying to make new friends. I think everyone's like really nervous about like adjusting to this new lifestyle of college, and so I wish I just knew that everyone's experiencing the same thing and I wasn't alone.
Yeah, I'd like to just go off of what Brandon just said and really reiterate that, because I had a lot of struggles freshman year. Like, I was homesick most of the year, wanted to go home, wasn't sure if I wanted to stay at the school. And I think Brandon said it perfectly. Everybody goes through very similar struggles, but we're not open about it. And I think maybe as freshmen, being open about your experiences and like what you're going through, and know that everybody really is in the same boat, and to not be nervous to talk to somebody about it. We have so many resources here too that you could talk to anybody. So I think, yeah, that's something really important.
One aspect that I wish I would have known is that like coming into Gonzaga will be such a transformative experience, and so much personal growth is going to happen, and things that you may have been super passionate about in high school, and like things that you did in high school might shift, and you might come to see like different parts of yourself and understand more about yourself and say, oh, I'm really passionate about this, or I really enjoy doing this, and kind of it'll be a really long personal growth journey. So that's one thing that I was not expecting when I came to Gonzaga.
I agree. And to go off of that, something that I wish I would have convinced myself more is that change is okay. I think when I first got here, when I was a freshman, I wanted everything to be like how it was back home, and just fighting so hard to make this like the home that I was used to. And so once I kind of let that go and realized that change is a good thing and that this is a new type of home, that is when I really started to find people that I get along with, and these people are much different from my friends back home, and just accepting that that's okay, and that just change is welcomed, and that I don't necessarily have to fight it all the time. And once I start accepting it, that's when you can really experience Gonzaga at its whole.
Kind of similar to what Jordan was saying about how you're going to change a lot and things will be a lot different, is that for me, I kind of wish I had known that I wasn't comfortable right away. It took a while until I was completely comfortable here, but I think it was good for me to be uncomfortable for a little bit and really figure out what I wanted to do and how I wanted to approach being a student at Gonzaga.
Yeah, I would say that with my personal experience, especially through my freshman year, being so far away from home was really difficult. And I wish I went into freshman year with a more flexible mindset in that change is okay, like Jordan and Megan were saying, and that I would have a lot of growth down the line, that it's not a scary process, it's something that should be welcomed, and you just have to go with the flow and accept anything that kind of gets thrown at your way, like taking up an offer to go to Spike Nights with some people on your floor, or joining a club and maybe hanging out with them outside of classes or after school. So those things were some things I wish I knew.
For me, from an academic standpoint, I initially had a bit of a struggle period for my first few months, kind of adjusting to the new academic format, and that will probably be similar for this upcoming year for freshman students, because it's going to be virtual mostly, and then some hybrid classes and some in person. But I think that the biggest thing that I understood from that and got out of it in my next few years was that you really get out of it what you put into it, and conversations with your professors are always encouraged, and professors are really working hard to make these online and hybrid classes the best that they can be. And so you can still get a lot out of classes, and that you can still like learn so much just outside of the textbook that you're reading. So I think that was the way that I furthered my education the most.
Yeah, and I'll springboard off of Kevin when he says what you get out, what you put in. When I heard that as a freshman, I kind of assumed that means get involved with everything, with no selectivity at all. And I realized pretty quickly that I have all these interests, but fine tune them, really understand what you like about these broad interests you have, and then focus in. And so being a freshman, realizing that, and now being a senior, being able to talk to professors and just go in and ask them, hey, I'm interested in this. I have a professor who was going to take sabbatical this upcoming spring, and I wanted to take his elective. We work together. I'm an independent study now. We've been working through the summer. Just really awesome things come out of it. But you got to know what you want and really think about it. Don't just grab at everything. But think about what you want to do and then pursue that wholeheartedly.
I would say that one thing I wish I'd known would be that you are supported. I think that going from your senior year of high school into your freshman year, you had just gone through that application step process and taking your SATs and ACT, and it's very competitive. And sometimes I think it's hard to take yourself out of that mindset, because I feel like throughout high school, you're thinking like, how can I make myself look good to colleges? And you're here now. So it's a completely different environment, I would say. And people here want you to succeed. And that includes all of your peers and your friends and your employers, your professors. Everyone here is there to support you. It's not so much a competition anymore. It's a community. And I think we talk a lot about Gonzaga's community, and it really is a tight place that people care about you and they want to see you succeed.
Well, we don't have any more questions in the chat. I'm going to invite all of our participants to put something in the chat, because this time is for you guys. We know you have questions. We know you have concerns about this upcoming school year, and we want to be able to help you. So go ahead and put those questions in the chat. While we wait for that, I think we could talk maybe a little bit about some of our experiences in college. Maybe those that have changed majors can talk about what that experience has been like for them.
Sure. So I came in as a general business major, and then I switched to an economics major in the School of Arts and Sciences, and then, or sorry, College of Arts and Sciences, excuse me. And then I switched to a Spanish major, again in the College of Arts and Sciences, and then I switched to a dance major. So for me, that process was a lot of figuring out what I wanted to do with my life and what I was passionate about, and making sure that the classes that I was going to each day were things that I was excited to be there, and also making sure that how I wanted my trajectory to go after college would be aligned with what degree I was in. And definitely, like, coming in my junior year, I do have a lot of like coursework to make up for in the dance program, but I would say it was definitely worth it to figure out and take classes in such a diverse spread of disciplines to find out, okay, this is really what I want to study. And additionally, Gonzaga makes it really easy to switch your major. You just go in and fill out the little sheet, and then if you're switching schools or disciplines, you can get a new advisor as well. And it's a pretty streamlined process, and people are there to definitely help you out through the process, like Serena was saying in her last response.
We did get a couple of questions in the chat while Ryan was giving his response. Again, this one is to everybody on the panel. What is your favorite late night study spot? Any coffee houses open late near campus? I can also start. Thomas Hammer is not open late, but it is located in the Jepson Center. And I like studying in the Jepson Center at night just because nobody's there and I will just study by myself.
I don't recall any late night coffee spots on campus that will be open. The closest one I would think is there's a Dutch Bros that is open 24 hours a day. It's very close to campus. It's such a short walk. And yeah, my favorite late night study spot would have to be the third floor of the Foley Library, because it is just dead silent, and like, I don't know, it's a perfect spot to like focus in.
Yeah, I 100% agree with Brandon. I think Dutch is a great spot for coffee if it's late at night, but library has been my go-to ever since sophomore year. I found the first floor is a little like talkative, and so that didn't really work. And then second floor, some people are whispering here and there, which is okay. But I was looking for complete silence, and definitely if you go up to the third floor, you get that. And I love the library.
I would say I'm a complete opposite. I cannot handle complete silence when I study. So I either pick the first floor of Foley Library, or I go to Hemington. They have lots of tables there for students. You can hang out there in front of Starbucks, or there's different floors that you can go up, but there's always people and a background noise, which helps me actually concentrate more.
I agree with Taylor. I can't study in complete silence. So the study rooms in Hemington are amazing because they have a big whiteboard, and I love using whiteboards and colors. But I also really like studying in my room because I feel like I have all my stuff. So a little advice about that would be setting boundaries with your roommate, so they know, like, when I have my headphones in, please don't talk to me. So yeah.
I completely agree. I think it's important to make sure that your room is also a place where you feel comfortable doing your work. That it's not just like the fun space or the place you sleep, that it's really where you can focus in. Because I didn't do that the first few months of my freshman year, so I constantly felt like I had to leave my room. But then I really dedicated some time to making my desk like, this is where I do school. So I think that is also very important if you just want to stay in, especially this year since things will be a little different, just making your desk like your home base and where you feel completely comfortable doing all your work from.
My favorite place to study, I know at least last year you could go into empty classrooms in any of the buildings, and I really liked with like a couple friends going to an empty classroom in College Hall because you have a lot of space to spread out and there's like whiteboards and stuff, and I really like that.
We're going to go ahead and keep going through the chat. This one is directed at anybody that was involved in the living learning communities in Coghlan. JP would love to hear about your experience and what you enjoyed about being in those communities.
So I was actually in living learning communities for 2 years, my freshman and my sophomore year. In my freshman year, I was involved in Women for Others on the 4th floor of Coghlan. And that was involved a lot with CCE, which is our community outreach center for volunteer work in the greater Spokane area. And that was really fun. It was a very low commitment, but it really made a community with all of my floor mates. It really allowed me to get to know them better and hang out with them a lot more, and also get to know the greater Spokane a little bit better and what type of community I'm living in. And my sophomore year, I was in the social justice LLC in Kennedy on the 3rd floor. And that was a very small group of people, but we were in a classroom setting. It was almost like a 1-credit class. And we just talked about a lot of social justice and how we're able to incorporate that into our Gonzaga community, and in what ways can we be an ally for others.
I also lived in Coghlan my first year at Gonzaga, and I was on the 2nd floor in the Learns to Lead LLC. And that was something that I didn't know too much information about it when I was first going into it, but it definitely allowed me to see opportunities and be exposed to leadership in the academic sphere that I hadn't really had much experience in. And like Taylor said, like, the programming that the LCs would do to get you out into campus and meeting people on your floor and creating a stronger sense of community was really helpful. And it kind of gave things to do if you felt like, oh, I don't know, I don't really have plans, or there are people like hanging out and stuff. So you could go out there and definitely feel welcome into that community. So I would definitely recommend looking into those.
I'm going to go ahead and continue with the chat once again. This is again directed towards everybody on our panel. Describe a challenge you had in freshman year and how did you solve it? A bit of a critical thinker there.
Well, I guess I can kind of attest because that's very close. So part of my freshman year was having to get kicked out because of COVID. And that was quite uncomfortable just because I was a freshman and I'd only had a few months to make my friends. And we didn't really get the opportunity to have those super deep connections just because we had just met each other within about 2 or 3 months. So that was definitely a little bit challenging to, feel like I was in the groove of everything and finally feeling like, okay, I got it. And then all of a sudden I was back home. But I will say that we were all facing the same things together. So for a lot of us, it brought us closer, just the little things like helping each other with our courses or, just talking about life, just because there was a lot of things that were happening in that short amount of time. So honestly, I think with the friends that I had made within the few months, we're closer now, just because we really did need to depend on each other during that time, and in a way that was different from when we were on campus. So just adjusting to life back at home when it just finally felt like I got my groove on campus was a little bit difficult, but you know what, I'm back, and I don't feel like I missed out on anything being home. I don't feel like I skipped a beat. So I really think that even though it was a challenge, it's not that big of one, and it was hard to overcome, but I had a lot of people supporting me.
I'm going to go ahead and continue with the chat. Can you touch on campus and off-campus safety? For example, if walking or going for a jog off campus, should students go with a partner? Is it safe to walk around campus at night? I can go ahead and touch on the on-campus portion. My freshman and sophomore year, I lived on one side of campus and I would have to walk to the music hall every Wednesday night for wind ensemble. And we would get out at like 9:30, so it'd be completely dark. And I'd be walking back to my dorm in the middle of the night and I would feel very safe walking across campus. We have these blue lights across campus, and the campus is very well lit. And in case there is an emergency, we always have campus security like in our phones. Like we all keep that number in our phones for an emergency, but I've never had to use that number for an emergency. If we want one person to touch on off-campus safety.
Yeah, I can touch on off-campus a little bit. I actually lived off-campus last year, and I was like one of the furthest houses you could probably have in the Logan neighborhood. I lived on Ermina, and it was like an entire mile away from school, and I would walk every single day. And I really utilized calling campus security almost every single night when I had to work late, or if I was in the library until like 11 p.m. or something studying. They were really good at like picking me up at like DeSmet Circle or just like a local spot, and they would drive me back to my house. They would also like drive me to campus anytime I wanted. So I would say they're really good at giving rides. And they also circle around the Logan neighborhood a lot. So every time I was actually walking to campus, I would sort of see a campus security car just driving down one of the streets or anything. But yeah, I would say they're really good at giving car rides, especially off campus. Just give them a call and they'll pick up. I've never had an issue with like someone not picking me up or like not picking up the phone or something.
All right, continuing with the questions, if we could have two people answer this one. How was your experience with having a roommate for the first time? Were you able to resolve any possible conflicts? Did you build a great friendship?
I can talk about this one because, so I'm a sophomore, so I had a roommate for the first time last year, and it was a really good experience for me, but a big part of why it was so good was because in the beginning we talked for about like how we wanted the year to go. We set what like our limits would be. We just communicated a lot, and so now we're super great friends. We're living again together again. So I would just say that for your first time having a roommate, it's really important that you just communicate and like set boundaries and are just respectful of each other.
I would say with my personal experience of having a roommate, in my freshman year, I did not know my roommate. I came in randomly filling out that survey and everything, but we did not live together again sophomore year, but and I wouldn't say we're the best of friends, but we do say hi around campus. We're very good at coexisting with each other in a single room, and I think a lot had to do with boundaries, like Megan was talking about, being very open and honest with each other as you are sharing such a tight space with one another. Very different from me being an only child and then coming in and having someone else invade my space as well. But it's definitely an experience, and going in it with an open mind very honestly is something that I would say helped with the relationship building.
Moving on to the next question, again, if we could have two of our panelists give their experience. How would you say organizing for assignments to classes has changed with online learning? And what about your personal experience has changed with online learning?
Yeah, I can take this one. So I'm not a perfect example because I'm an engineering student that's taking an overload of credits, but when you switch from something you're very comfortable with to something you've never dealt with, you kind of have to reinvent the wheel. Last semester, my professors were very good about communicating how they were going to do class, and that's still true this year. Some did pre-recorded classes, and so I actually got ahead. I'd watched like the entire week's worth of material. Monday, hit the assignments, and we were able to coordinate really well with other classmates. And so that was actually like a positive change. Like I was able to get ahead on stuff and work like that. There were other sides where, okay, now we have this project we're in the middle of dealing with, we're trying to coordinate, and that kind of slowed down. And so I think the biggest thing for me was I started going to office hours more. I have a hard time getting up and standing in front of an office and then waiting to ask my question, but with everything with Zoom, I just set an appointment, and then you have that professor's attention. You're not waiting for a line, and that's fun too. When you're hanging out with your buddies, you all have a question, that there's a sense of community there, but it's also not as efficient, right? And so for me, the big thing was tapping into that Zoom online, reach out, ask your questions, and professors want to hang out and talk to you. It's not just, can I get help on number 3? All right, see you when I see you. They want to talk to you. Hey, how you feeling? What do you think about this? I feel uncomfortable at this. They're very good about treating you as an adult, because you're going to be, right? You're stepping into this new stage of life. And so that was really valuable for me. And that's the big thing that changed.
Yeah, I can be the second panelist on this. For me, I found it hard to immediately adjust from, I mean, essentially we coordinate schedules. We work for so long to make our in-person schedules work. And that, like, if we have jobs or anything to make that work, we think about signing up for classes as if we're walking from class to class. So when you go, you're not walking from class to class, you're just joining a different Zoom session. It can be kind of upending in a way. And for me, I found that, like, I have a written planner and organize my weeks that way, but also just like I start my mornings kind of in a similar routine, because I find that having a routine when almost all things, when you're not actually walking to class, it's really difficult. That, like, you really need to be intentional with how you set aside hours, and like, and really being like, when you're in a house or when you're in your roommates or in a dorm room, it might be difficult to actually set aside time to do an assignment, rather than if you're already on campus going to and from classes. So I found that, I mean, it still will be experimental for me this next semester too, because this is our first full semester, for me at least, being completely remote. But yeah, I think that for me, it's been the routine and like still reaching out to professors and knowing that they're there for me.
Moving on to the next question, if we could have a few panelists that have any in-depth experiences with their academic advisors answer this one. How would you describe the academic advisors? Are they supportive? Are they helpful? And what other resources are available to support students other than advisors?
I can also, Jordan, if you want to go, I saw you on mute.
So I honestly think it depends on the advisor that you have, because everyone, what I've noticed, is very different about their approach. Because my advisor takes a little bit of a different way than my friends' advisors. So I think that's one important thing to note, that not all of them are kind of built the same. But I will say that my advisor was very helpful to me. Anytime I had a question, I just email him, and I would be scared. Like, I think I would psych myself out, like, oh my gosh, is this stupid? Is this a stupid question? But he was always very supportive, never had any judgment. It was always there to help me. So I think that's just something to realize, that don't be scared, that they really do care. And even if they may not reach out contact to you as often as you may like, or as often as you may think, that they're still going to be there, and that they still do have a lot of answers for you.
I think I can pop in on this one too. Being from the nursing department, my academic advisor is also kind of my professor as well. Like, I have them in some of my classes just because it's such a small community. Um, I would say that she is very helpful and very supportive. We see our academic advisors every semester, especially during midterm, and they definitely reach out to you as well, and all of their other students that they're advising. If I were to say other resources that I have available to me that were also very supportive were my nursing professors. And I'm sure everyone can also attest that they have that one professor that they had in a class, and they kind of just clicked with you. They kind of built this relationship, and it was really helpful to reach out to them, especially if they were in my field of study. And sometimes if they weren't, they were just there for emotional support as a student, seeing so many students go through their classrooms. But I would say definitely there are professors that you get to know throughout your years here at Gonzaga that are very helpful and very supportive and will always be there for you.
We're going to go ahead and move on to the next question. If I could have a couple panelists answer this one. Were your parents fully involved in your college experience, or would you have liked them to be more involved in your college experience?
So I guess I could be the first one to answer this question. My family is from Southern California, and so obviously it's pretty far away, I would consider. And so my family was not really involved like at all. And I think it was sort of like up to me to reach out to them and sort of like ask for the help, because like my freshman experience was very rocky. I think I was just really homesick and I wanted them to be more involved. But then they saw that my older brother, who was at a different university and was a sophomore at the time, was very independent and didn't need them to be involved. And so they were sort of seeing if like that was going to be the same situation. So it was like up to me to let them know that I wanted them to be more involved. And now I could say as a senior, they're pretty much very involved. They ask for my grades all the time and everything like that. Freshman year, I couldn't say that was the same thing, but I love how involved my parents are now. And I mean, I talk to my dad almost every single day after my classes, give an update, like on my walk back to my room or something like that. But yeah, that was sort of my experience with my like parents' involvement throughout like college.
For my parents' involvement, I feel like I have kind of a unique perspective because my dad is a professor in the biology department here. So we were always on campus together. And we definitely, he coming into Gonzaga, he was like, hey, like, I don't want to intrude on your college experience, but like, I'm always here if you need to talk or anything. And definitely ended up, we would get coffee probably a couple times a week and just chat about life and stuff in his office. And like I forgot my toothbrush the first night of my sophomore year staying in my dorm. So like they came and brought it to me. And it was definitely really nice to have that support. But it was we also had a very open conversation before coming to Gonzaga about like expectations and what it would look like. And they also there was a shift in, I guess, their parenting when I came to Gonzaga because they understood that this would be a time with so much more freedom and I would be on my own, but not really. And so having that open conversation, setting expectations definitely helped, I think, myself as well as them knowing like, this is where we're going to step in, this is where we're not. And of course, I would reach out and come home to get a home cooked meal and stuff, which was very nice on those dreary October evenings. But setting expectations was definitely something that helped a lot in that transitional time.
We're going to go ahead and keep going with the Q&A. This one is for those that are maybe from areas that were impacted more than others by COVID-19. How have the health restrictions / gathering limits impacted you, and what have you found to help stay social?
I can chime in on this one. So, as I said before, I'm from Hawaii. So, all of my friends are from Washington, Idaho, Oregon, California, and I'm on a completely different time zone. So, when I was sent back home this past semester, it was a little hard scheduling things with them, like Zoom parties, and we would like get together and talk about how our week was or what life was like and complain about how COVID has ended our junior year experience. But I would say that definitely reaching out, like, don't be afraid to reach out. It's not um, something to be scared of. People are very open, people are very willing to support you in any way, shape, or form, whether that's fellow peers or I would say like professors, even with like those Zoom calls with classes. But um, I would say that being very far away in a different time zone and being very isolated in like my house and my room was not a huge issue for me personally, um, but definitely had a lot of support to help me out with that as well.
I think there's a lot of ways to connect with your friends like virtually, even like what we're doing right now through Zoom. I mean, that's a great way to like be face to face, even though we're not in the same room. It's great to catch up, and then you also, I know what my friends did since my area was like pretty restricted. Was like we play like board games online, and we like went on Zoom with each other, like Catan and like the card game Hearts. So I mean, you gotta get creative, but like there's a lot of ways to connect with each other too.
Okie dokie. The next question is, how small are the dorm rooms really? I can go ahead and give my perspective a little bit. Freshman year, I was in Welch, and the rooms in there are a little smaller, but you definitely do have room to move around and have space with your roommate. And then sophomore year, I was in Madonna, which was sort of an upgrade because I had a sink in my room. So it really does depend on which residence hall your student is staying in. But it is helpful to know those dimensions going in so you know how much to pack and like what you have space for too. If anybody else has a different story to share about residence halls.
Yeah, so I was a bit concerned with like the space heading into my freshman year. So what my roommate and I did, we actually lofted our beds. So like our beds were raised higher, and we actually put it on like the highest level. So we had like a couch under one bed and TV under another. So it was a lot more spacious than the ones I saw in my dorm. So if you're looking for more space, I definitely recommend doing a loft for your bed.
Moving on with the Q&A, if I could have a couple people answer this one as well. How have the academic challenges changed since switching to remote learning from in-person classes? Examples are access to your professor, tests, group work.
So I can take this. Ever since I was little, I never liked doing tests online. They gave me a lot of like test anxiety. And so I took my first virtual chemistry test online, and I didn't finish. And I remember I was freaking out. I didn't know what to do. My parents like watched my full mental breakdown in horror. But immediately I emailed the professor and I kind of told her my situation and said like, I'm sorry, and I understand there's nothing you can do about this, but I can't take online tests. And she was very understanding, and as we went on, we found different ways of like how I could do things, and she was very accommodating. So I will say that there are some challenges to being online that you don't necessarily have to face when you're in person, just because personally I'm a faster writer than I am typer. So even those little things can kind of get in the way, I guess, but don't be super worried about it. The professors are there to help you, and they most of the time don't like online either. So they will be very open to help you out just because they probably need help themselves too, and they really appreciate the feedback from you. But they won't know if there's a problem if you don't tell them, is the main thing.
I think to sort of piggyback what Jordan was saying is professors are trying to figure out the virtual learning aspect of everything along with us and how to really teach us virtually. So I think sort of just keeping an open mind and like just really forming that connection with your professors, even if it is just through email or video chat or something. I know a lot of my professors have reached out and they just like a simple email letting me know that, hey, we're trying to figure this out. Like, stay with me. It might just be like take a few weeks, a month, or whatever it is. But I say just tell your students to really just like play by ear and like have a conversation with their professors and their advisors about it all.
I just wanted to add on to that. So last semester I was in anatomy and physiology lab. And so a lot of that work is hands-on dissections, and we had to do that remotely. And my professor, he basically did a Zoom dissection on his dining table, and we watched online. And it was kind of difficult to not be able to like hold and like feel things in like a 3D form. But I would say that, like Sam had said, the professors are also learning with you. So I was very lucky because he provided us with a lot of resources, like videos outside of the classroom. And I would say because our professors are also learning with us, if your student is struggling or just needs some extra support, to ask. As I had talked earlier, your professors are here to support you and they want you to succeed.
Moving on to the next question. This is for those that are on our panel that have any experience with the Center for Cure Personalis. Can you share your feedback? Was it helpful? Do you think there's any stigma on campus towards mental health?
Yeah, I can talk about CCP. So I know that CCP is recently, there's been some structural changes to where there's now the Office of Health Promotion as well as CCP, as well as the other branch that handles like in-person nursing appointments. But with CCP specifically, freshman year for a lot of the people in my dorm was obviously a time of a lot of change, and that I was able to make deep connections pretty quickly with some of my surrounding roommates and those in our dorm, and that like there is this kind of mentality with CCP and at Gonzaga that Zags help Zags, and that you watch out for your fellow students. So especially in a time like right now, you can do referrals for your friends and have them meet with a counselor that is not stigmatized, that it's really just like if they need someone to talk to, and like especially now that students might not feel like they have any sort of escape or someone to talk to like that it's really important for incoming students to watch out for one another, and especially those who are already on campus, that it's not stigmatized, and you can file referrals to just have a good friend or someone go in and talk to a professional.
Can go ahead and continue on with the Q&A. Have any of you participated in the work study program? If so, can you talk about this experience?
Yeah, so I can talk about it. I was a work study my freshman year. I worked in the University Advancement Office. And so it's near the Zag shop. There's the parking garage, and on the opposite side is the office. And they were incredibly flexible about where I could fit in time to work within my class schedule. Again, an engineer, so I had an overload of credits. And so they understood, all right, you can't work a 20-hour week. We don't want you working a 20-hour week. I will say, I know in my award package, I think they outline the amount that you are expected to get. That is a cap. You do not plan to get that money because you have to work for it, right? So I didn't hit that cap because I didn't have enough hours to hit it. And so I like to tell families, you can either choose to take that money up front and then work it back throughout the school year, or you can choose to work it as you go. For me, my family wanted to do the work as you go, so you're not having to pay back that delta that you don't end up working if you can't. So that's my one note when you're planning finances. But as far as working as a work study, it was great. If I had time I need to take off for tests or trips and things like that, it was no problem. They didn't make you feel bad about it because they know that you're a student that's trying to get a degree primarily. You just need some money on the side.
I also had a work study job this past year. I worked in the library processing the books. It was a good experience, I would say. It was nice to be able to earn money and have something to do. But I would say a piece of advice I would give would be to communicate really well with your supervisor because they might expect you to be doing more than you actually can. So just be really clear about how many hours you can work, when you can work, and just communicate with them, I would say, to make sure that it's a positive experience.
Continuing on with the Q&A, if we could have a few people answer this one just so we have a range. How many classes do you have in person this semester versus remote?
I guess I'll start. I'm taking 19 credits this semester and all of my classes will be remote. So I'm not totally sure exactly what I'm doing. I will be on campus for the majority of the time. I'm living in the apartment building Kennedy on the 5th floor. And so I'll most likely be taking my classes remotely in there. And then it's flexible because if I want to go home a little early before Thanksgiving, then I can. I have the option to, or I can just go home when everybody else does for Thanksgiving and then stay there. So I think for me, it makes it a little more flexible for my schedule because I can really, like, if my family needs me back home, or if I need to like take a flight super quickly, then everything's online. I just communicate that with my professors. But yeah, everything will be online for my semester.
I'm kind of the exact opposite because the majority of my classes don't lend as easy to a Zoom call. And so I think that I'm taking around 9 classes or something, and all of the technique dance classes are going to be in person, and the studio's been sectioned off into 10 by 10 foot like squares, and then all dancers will be wearing masks to ensure the safety of our community. But then some of my other classes, like dance history, is going to be more Zoom oriented. And then for like concert choir, I know that we're trying to do a healthy blend of both, and there's been a lot of research done on like the air that comes out when people are singing, and getting like specific singing masks so that they don't like come in your mouth when you're like opening it. But I'd say that it kind of depends on how easy the class is able to put into a remote setting.
I'll go next. I am taking 5 3-credit classes, and 3 of them are online, but 2 of them are hybrid. So with the hybrid approach, it's where, let's say I have a class that's Tuesdays and Thursdays. That means like half the class comes in person on Tuesday, while the other half does it virtually. And then for Thursday, they switch off.
For me, all of my classroom setting classes are all completely online in an asynchronous format. So they're all pre-recorded and you do it on your own time as long as you get through it. And for the rest of my credits, I have a skills lab that I need to be in person for training skills for nursing. And then also my clinicals will be in person this year. They've yet to give us our schedule, but that's what they're planning for us in the future.
These next 2 questions are going to be our final 2 questions. For the next one, do you think being fully remote as freshmen has big implications on social life once they arrive on campus for the spring semester?
I will say things will be different. Just because you can't necessarily make the friends in a traditional sense, like because things are going to be different. It's not like it's going to be people already have their groups of people and your student can't come in. That's not how it is, because everyone's in the same boat. We're all experiencing the same things. We're all pretty much online except for a few exceptions. So don't think that your student's going to have a terribly difficult time making friends once they get here, because that's not the case whatsoever at Gonzaga. And even getting kind of sent away at the end of freshman year, I thought it would affect how I made friends and how I stayed connected with the friends that I had made. But it definitely did not. Even the simplest ways of asking for people's information on a Zoom breakout room so that you guys can study together, just simple things like that of making friends but virtually, and just trying to connect with the students or your peers in the classroom a little bit more, just because you really are going to have to depend on each other. So even though in the traditional sense things will be different, don't be afraid. Your students will not be alone, because again, we're all kind of going through the same things right now.
We're going to go ahead and move on to the final question. I'm combining 2 here. Do most students go home for Thanksgiving? And then how hard is it to get to the airport if you're leaving for Thanksgiving? And does the school provide transportation? If anybody wants to speak to the airport, I can speak to students that do go home. I know that I went home for Thanksgiving, and I know this year, regardless of whether or not your student does go home, their classes will continue on remotely. So I definitely think that that's a good reason for your student to come home and see you at Thanksgiving, because there won't be any shift in their academic requirements.
The university does not provide transportation to the airport, but I recommend doing ride shares. So with through Uber with other friends, and like splitting the fee through Uber. And and a lot of people bring cars to campus, so maybe one of your friends will have a car and will be generous enough to take you there.
Yeah, and along just that little note, like for the most part, I don't think I've been on a flight leaving or going to Spokane that doesn't have other students that like either that I see after I get off the aircraft and need to get from Spokane or the airport back to Spokane, and I'm like, do you just want to split an Uber? Or going there, if you find people that like are from the same area as you, chances are they're on a similar flight out for Thanksgiving, because almost everyone leaves at the same time. So it is pretty easy to either find someone with a car to drive you or to split an Uber that way.
With that, I think we are going to wrap up our student panel. Thank you to all of our panelists for joining us today, and thank you to all of our parents, families, and supporters for joining all of our sessions this weekend. We look forward to seeing those of you on campus that will be joining us this Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And if you will not be joining us, we look forward to communicating with you in the future as well. Thank you, and go Zags!